Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today we'll be looking at UiPath integration with ServiceNow. So UiPath provides a default integration capability to connect to different types of third-party applications. Today we'll be looking at the ServiceNow integration. If you head over to UiPath Cloud, you can navigate to the integration service, and in here you will find the list of connectors that UiPath supports. So in here you can search for ServiceNow, and as you can see, if you want to integrate ServiceNow with UiPath, you have to create a new connection. So you click on connect to ServiceNow. It asks you these credentials. It asks you for a site URL, a client ID, and a client secret. Okay, so we will go step by step and set up each one of these and then connect to UiPath. Okay, so to do this, we will require a running ServiceNow instance. If you have ServiceNow already, you can provide that URL. If you do not have and you're trying to learn and play around, you can head over to servicenow.com and they provide a free developer instance. Once you have signed up to ServiceNow for a developer instance, you will see a screen like this, and once you click on start building, it will launch your own personalized ServiceNow developer instance. You can come in here and search for system OAuth. Okay, under here you can see system auth application registry, JWT providers, keys, tokens, and SAML2 assertion. So we don't really need to know all of these functions and what each one of these mean, but what we are going to do today is integration of ServiceNow with UiPath using OAuth 2. So to explain what OAuth 2 is, I found this image from the internet. So basically, as you create a new role or a user for any application, so instead of providing a user who logs in with their username and password into an application, you can similarly provide access to an application instead of a user and provide with a client ID and client secret, which in turn this application uses and sends over to authorization server, which sits in front of a resource server that you want to access to. Okay, let's say this is the ServiceNow instance that you want to access to, and this is the authorization server of ServiceNow. You are letting UiPath get the resources or read or write the resources from the resource server, and to do that you will have to provide access to resources. So you provide that application with a client ID and a client secret, and then what happens is UiPath sends those client ID and client secret to the authorization server. If there's successful authentication, it will issue an access token. From here, every time it requests for a certain resource or it tries to write to a particular resource, it will send request for that resource along with the access token. So this access token acts as a key for UiPath to be able to access resources of ServiceNow. Okay, so that's how OAuth 2 works with client ID and client secret. So this is what we're going to do now. So I'm heading over to my ServiceNow application. I'm looking for system OAuth, and since we are going to create an application access, we will have to click on application registry, and all of this documentation is already provided by UiPath in the official documentation. If you look at here in integration service and ServiceNow authentication, so in here you can register UiPath as an application registry entry. So what you got to do is click on new and set up UiPath as create an OAuth API endpoint for external client. This is the option that you need to select. The same is also mentioned in setup. You see, create an OAuth API endpoint for external client. So once you're back here, you will be presented with this screen. I will name it as UiPath integration, and then you have your application scope, which is global. There is a client ID that's already being populated, so you can leave the client secret blank, and that will generate a string once you finish this record creation. Okay, So next part is providing a redirect URL. You can look over this in the UIPath documentation, and you are good to go. So accessible from would be all application scopes. You don't have to do anything else in here. And once you click on submit, it will generate the client secret. Okay, so if this is the integration that we just created, UiPath integ. So if I open it up, you will be able to see that there's a client ID and there is a client secret here. Okay, so what we're going to do now is go back and refresh the screen here. I'll provide my URL for ServiceNow instance. This is my URL. I'll provide my client ID. Copy this over from here, and also provide the client secret. Okay, so once you provide all these three details, you can click on connect, and that will ask you for your approval. If you allow it, so from here UiPath will be able to access any resources in ServiceNow. Okay, I hit allow, and then the integration will be established. You see there is this is the integration that we just created. You see the date on it, 4th August, and this is one way of doing it. I will just edit and say underscore OAuth. There is another way to do ServiceNow integration. If you hit on connect to ServiceNow again, and you click and this is your launch screen for integration, you can go and select this option and change the authentication type from OAuth 2.0 to basic authentication. So if you, this isn't recommended usually, but since you are just playing around and trying to learn, this should be fine. So if you want to change the authentication type, you can select basic, then just provide your site URL and just provide your instance's username and password. Okay, you will be able to find your instance username and password in here. So you see, so you head over into this screen again, paste the password, username is admin, it's the same URL, and I click on connect, and it should, you see it is also, it has also created a new ServiceNow connector. So, and that is this one again here. Okay, so I will just say, I will just rename it to underscore admin. Okay, so you see there's two different connections for us in here. One is through OAuth 2.0 and one is through basic authentication, and both show the connection status as connected. So this is the integration. This is how you integrate ServiceNow with the UiPath. We will now head over to UiPath Studio and perform some actions such as creating or updating records in ServiceNow. So here's what we are going to do. We are going to create a new UiPath project in which we are going to establish an integration with ServiceNow, and we are going to list all the incidents initially just to check the connections, and then once we are sure that it is able to establish connection and it is able to retrieve the list of incidents, then we are going to create a robot that would add work notes to the incidents marked as new. Okay, so we are going to capture the status of all the incidents, filter out the new incidents from them, and then add work notes to them. Let's get started. And click on create. It is going to take a minute for all the dependencies to get added. All right, now that it is ready, as you can see, we don't see anything in the dependencies list for integration activities. That is because they are not added by default, but as you work through and add any activity into your sequence, then the dependency gets added into this list of dependencies in here. Okay, so I'll go ahead to the activities and look for ServiceNow in the available list of activities. Okay, so in here I find ServiceNow. I can pull in anyone, and that will add a dependency to the project, but I'm going to pull in the list all incidents, and it says restoring dependencies. That's because I've already worked with it earlier. If not, it will try to add those dependencies to your project. All right, my dependencies are here, my activity is here. This is the integration services dependency that got added when we pulled in the list all incidents. Okay, so let's take a look at what all activities are currently supported by ServiceNow. When So we can add attachment, create incident, incident task, incident, delete attachments, update attachments, and then list all incidents, incident tasks, attachments, search incidents, update incidents, and then we also have all kinds of CRUD operations for records, and then we have few triggers. Since we pulled in list all incidents, let's pull all the list of incidents in our instance. So in the list of connections, I am able to see all my connections in here that I created from my orchestrator. But if you are unable to see your connection, just make sure that you are in the same workspace. You can also add a new connection or manage your existing connections using this setting icon.